Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fairy Tale Wiki Twitter Talk. I hope you're all doing well and having a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you may be listening from. Joining me today, I've got Shea. She's one of our Twitter followers, Fairy Tale fan, of course, a cosplayer, and also a contributor to a French website for Japanese culture enthusiasts. So, Shea, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for meeting me.
Thank you for joining us. We're really happy to have you on. So, I just want to jump right into it and get into this conversation. You're a Fairy Tale fan, so how did you become a fan of the series?
I became it when I was in France in a bookshop and I saw the first manga on the bookshop. So I take it and I began to read it and I fell in love with the story, the characters. Then the anime came out, so I was watching it every week and I just fell in love with it.
So you said the anime came out after you found the manga. So how long ago was this?
Oh wow, it was like more than 10 years ago.
Fair enough, that is quite a while. What was the thing about Fairy Tail that got you the most interested in it?
In fact, Fairy Tail was of my first mangas, so I didn't really know this world, and I really like the story of Magic Guild and the character of Natsu. Then at the beginning, I really hate Lucy, but she have a great evolution. So everything is Fairy Tail is really nice for me, and I made a lot of friends. You know the power of friendship. So yeah, he have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that's something I've heard a lot of people say is that some of the characters weren't very interesting at first, but then you like their evolution over the course of the series. And we'll get back to Lucy specifically because we know you have a very particular connection with that character. So what I want to ask you next is, do you prefer the anime or the manga?
Ah, that's a hard question. I think I prefer the manga because it's more the story. There is no spin-off like in the anime, but the anime is great. I think there is the story is really nice following the manga, so it's not very different.
What's your favorite story arc in the series?
I think it's a Grand Magic Game arc.
Any particular reason why?
Maybe it's because Lucy become really nice at this arc, and the outfits are incredible, like cosplay stuff.
True, there is a lot of information like that that you get out of that arc. So I want to turn that around. What is your least favorite arc in the series?
Oh wow, this is a very hard question because I think the arc I didn't like was the one with the spirit going crazy, but it's not in the manga. It's only in the anime to have time. So I don't like it, but it's not a real part of the manga. So I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say that arc too, the Eclipse Celestial Spirit arc, just because it's so weird and really seems unnecessary, and it just has a lot of weird things going on, like gray dancing, the weird thing with the watermelon and the mayonnaise. It was just very odd, and nobody really seems to like it for the most part. So that's quite understandable.
Yeah, I think I forget nearly everything about it.
I think most people forget everything about it except for that really weird stuff, and that's why they don't like it in retrospect.
Mhm. If I rewatch the anime someday, I think I will skip this one.
I think that's totally understandable. But speaking of the story, you mentioned Natsu and Lucy were the interesting things that grind you into the series overall. So, which one of them would be your favorite character, or is it somebody else?
Lucy is my favorite character, but in fact, I think I like nearly everybody except Lisana. I cannot stand up Lisana, but I think it's because of the Nalu conflicts, you know.
Yeah, I think that's understandable. It's definitely something I've heard before that some people don't really like the way that she was brought back into the series, and they do feel that it messes up that shipping, particularly if you're a shipper of Natsu and Lucy. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's right. She was dead. It was a nice part, I think. Like Natsu have lost a friend. It was a sad story from him, and then she came back like, okay, the sad story is over now.
And nothing really changed at the end of the day.
No, that's true.
My overall contention with that arc, among some other things, is that we lost the very interesting character of Mystigan, but we got the very uninteresting character of Lysana. So it feels like a bad trade. I'm like, can we go back and like re-exchange them? I would prefer to have him back.
I totally agree.
Definitely. But as far as characters go, so we mentioned it earlier on. So you're a cosplayer, and your biggest cosplay is Lucy. So how did you take up this particular hobby?
When I was in France, there is a big convention which is Japan Expo. I don't know if you already heard about it, but it's the biggest convention outside Japan, I think, of about anime and Japan culture. So I went there with a friend when I was 14, I think, and I discovered cosplay there. I never saw cosplay on internet or something like this before, and I find it really, really nice. The year after this first Japan Expo, we went back and and we bought an ugly cosplay of Vampire Knight there. It was terrible. And but we like it at this moment. When I'm thinking now, I was like it was ugly, but at this moment we were really, really happy about it. And the year after, we decided to make a good cosplay, and I decided to make my first Lucy cosplay, and my friend was Lisana because of me. And in fact, when I made this cosplay, I wasn't a Lucy fan at all, but she looks like easy to do. So I decided to pick her, and I think I fell in love with her after this cosplay. It was in like 2013. Hi.
Which outfit was it back then?
It was the first one, the first we see on the anime and the manga, like the blue skirt with the white and blue top.
Yeah, I think that's probably her most popular one.
Yeah, at this time it was the only one. So on the internet I was only selling this one because it was about cosplay that time.
Now you mentioned making some. Have you made your own cosplays since then?
After that, I began to sew. I had the luck that my grandma was a sewer as job, so she learned me the basis, and I began to sew. So every Lucius cosplay I have after that was handmade.
Which one would you say was your favorite overall?
It's hard because I made the Grand Magic game with my grandma, so I learned a lot about sewing with this one, and now I'm think it's one of my best cosplay, and I really like the outfit as I said before. But recently, 2 years ago, I made Virgo Star dress, and this one is really nice too. So I think my favorite is these two cosplay. Are these two cosplay?
Now, obviously, Lucy has a lot of outfits, and so do the other characters in the series. So, how do you decide which one you want to do at any given time?
In fact, I'm trying to do only one character per anime. But when I arrived in Canada, I made a friend who was ultra cosplayer, and she was looking for Meredy. So she asked me if I wanna be her Meredy, and I accept. So I decided to do Meredy because she asked me. But I think I would never have cosplayed Meredy if she didn't. And then I made a Juvia cosplay. It's because a friend of mine did it, but she stopped cosplay recently and she wanna throw a cosplay her. So our cosplay of Juvia was really nice, and I was like, we cannot throw it to the garbage. So I take it and decided to try it, and surprisingly, it fits great.
So, what are some other series that you've cosplayed characters from, or have you been specific to Fairy Tail?
No, I have a lot of other series I cosplay, like the most popular, I think, is Love Live. Then I have an Harry Potter cosplay, Ari Suzumiya cosplay, Ariel from Disney, Colette from Tales of Symphonia. I have like 25 or 30 cosplays, something like this, but only 7 of Fairy Tail.
That is quite a lot. How do you find time to do all that stuff?
At the beginning, I was very productive, and it's not big cosplay, so it's kind of quick to do. But recently, because of the pandemic, I nearly totally stopped to sew. But for Love Live cosplay, for example, this is nearly all buying because I have no time for the details, and finally, doing the cosplay will be way more expensive than buying it. So this take no time.
Yeah, that's pretty understandable. So, one more question about cosplay, and then we'll get on to our next topic. Considering the current pandemic that's been affecting everybody, obviously conventions have closed down, or at best they've gone virtual. And you can't really go to the shops anymore to personally buy them, so you have to order them online. How has this affected your day to day when it comes to that particular hobby?
In fact, just before the pandemic, I was thinking about stopping cosplay because I had a really, really hard time. It was in 2019, I think. Like every convention I went make me sad, and I was like, maybe it's over and I should go to the next chapter. But it's hard to say that, but the pandemic come to the good time for me because I can take a break without saying everybody is doing it, and I'm not here. I'm not with my friend. Maybe I should go. It was really stressful for me, but as everybody is stay home, I don't have this kind of thoughts. So maybe for me it was benefic because now I'm I'm beginning. I began to sew again last month, and I have pleasure to do it instead of just watching my friend doing it. I don't know how to express good myself, but yeah, the pandemic was a good thing for me, sadly, because now I'm happy to go into cosplay again.
I think that's totally understandable. A lot of people did find that the pandemic gave them time to focus on their hobbies, take a break from things, because it also helps them focus on what's important in life. And if you realize that cosplay is particularly important to you, then you'll just spend more time doing it. And maybe in that sense, it kind of saved your hobby.
Yeah, that's totally my thing.
I think that makes perfect sense to me. So the last topic I want to discuss with you in particular is the website that you contribute to. So you mentioned it was a French website for Japanese culture enthusiasts. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I think the guy contacted me 6 years ago. He discovered me on Twitter because I was writing fan fiction about fairy tale, and he read one and told me that I have a good writing and if I was interested to write about Japan. In that time, I was interested in Japanese culture, but not as much as I am now. So at first, I write my first article was about fairy tale, I think. Yeah, and so at first I was writing about anime and little things like cat cafe or things like this. And now I'm more into travel article as I traveled there 3 times already, and more about culture I think people don't really know outside, like Takarazuka, which is a kind of woman theater, and recommendation of food, restaurant in Montreal, things like this.
How long have you been a contributor to this website?
I think 6 years now.
If it's been 6 years, you've probably written quite a few articles, right?
Yeah, I wrote like 50 or 60 now, something like this, because
Wow,
I'm trying to make quality article instead of quantity.
of course.
And it was easy to write a lot after a travel because I have every city to describe what to do there, what to eat there, etc. But because of the pandemic, I was not able to go last year, and this year I will not go again. So it's a little tricky to find an interesting topic. So actually, I'm more writing about books, speaking about Japan and books. You know, the books you can have at home with surprise inside.
So for you, what was the best thing that you learned as a result of your experience doing this?
In fact, it's interesting because if I wasn't on this website, maybe I will not be as interested as I am now about Japanese culture. Because when we are otaku, we love manga, we love anime, but what we know about Japan is only what we see in this reading or watching. So we are agree that it's not the reality. So thanks to this website, I make some research. I went to Japan. I have the opportunity to read books that I never thought I would get, things like this. So I learned a lot about all of the cultures, how is it really at school, about the religion like Shinto, things like this. And maybe without this website, I will never have the opportunity or the interest. So I'm really grateful to do this.
You mentioned that you visited Japan, and obviously, for many anime fans, that's a huge goal on their bucket list. So, what would be your number one piece of advice for people who want to do that?
For me, it's not go only in Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka. Because the first travel I made was for sure Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka. And I find it great. But after I went to Kyushu and I went to the Japanese Alps, and it was amazing. Like you cannot imagine how different it is. There is no tourist everywhere like in Osaka or Kyoto. The negative point of this is that if you are not speaking Japanese, it's sometimes hard because it's not touristic for the foreigner like us. But the people are really nice at this place. The landscape are totally different. The food is different. Everything is awesome, and it's maybe weird for some people, but Tokyo is not on my top three in Japan. Tokyo or Kyoto are really not in my top list. So if you go to Japan, go on another city.
I think that's actually going to be quite surprising for a lot of people because, those are the two big cities that everybody hears the most about. But I think you're also right in that there's definitely a lot of other parts of the country that have a lot to offer.
That's right. Like I don't say that you should not go to Kyoto and Tokyo. That's not my point. You should go, but when you will discover the other place, I'm sure you will really felt in love with Japan more than if you visit only Tokyo and Kyoto like a lot of people do. Because as I say, there is a lot of tourists and it's not the same living maybe because people see tourists every day, so they are tired of it. But if you go to, I will say Fukuoka, it's on Kyushu, people don't see foreigner as much as in Tokyo or Kyoto. So they are interested, they will want to speak with you, they are coming to see you, they will give you some advices and things to do that not everybody is used to do. So for me, it was a very good experience and I recommend it to everyone.
I think that's definitely something a lot of people should consider. So I hope if anybody's listening to this and creates some plans to go to Japan, that they listen to your advice.
Yeah, I hope so. And if they have some questions, they can just send me a message and I will try to help them. It will be a pleasure.
I'm sure they would appreciate that, and I don't think there's any pressure on anybody whatsoever. So I just want to open up this last part of the interview for anything. So is there anything in particular you would like to talk about or bring up?
Um, In fact, cosplay is my second favorite hobby. The first one is traveling, so maybe we can speak about it. Or like cosplay in France versus in Canada, maybe?
Absolutely. Is there anything in particular you'd like to tell us?
Sure, like when I came to Canada, I think the community here is totally different than the one in France. Like in France, I don't know if it's the case now because I lived France since 6 years now. But when I left, community in France was a bit sad. Like everybody was fighting. When you met someone with the same cosplay, it was a fight. Like I have my cosplay is better than him, or things like this. If if it, not people are like that, but a lot. And as the community in France is way bigger than this in Canada, when you go to Japan Expo, you're sure there will be a fight somewhere and a lot of bad messages after the convention. When I discovered the convention in Canada, I was like, it's crazy here. People are so nice. When you meet someone with the same cosplay, they came, they are not judging anyone. It's like, yeah, we have the same cosplay, we like the same things. That's so great. Become friends, and I found that really really nice.
I've never personally cosplayed myself, so I don't really know that detail about the community, but I think that is really interesting that France has taken it to a very competitive level, whereas in Canada it's much more community based and everyone just kind of wants to have fun and meet people who have the same interests as them.
So I think the point that in France the community is a little better than in Canada, it's because in convention there is photographer like random people making picture of you 7 or 8 picture and then they're editing them and sending it to you. In France, these people are not getting paid. It's like something they like to do, but they choose the cosplayers they want to have. In Canada, it's not the same. Like in Canada, the cosplayer should choose the photographer he wants and paid for it. So in Canada, there is not like a conflict or who is the best because if you're happy with your cosplay, you just ask for a picture, you pay for it, and that's it. In France, if you are not the best, photographer will not ask you to make a photo shoot. So I think this is a bad point because in France, if you want to have picture, you should be the best. So it's creates some competition between people. And I think that's the point why in France the ambience is not really good at Cannes. In biggest Cannes, in little Cannes, it's a kind of different. It's more friendly, but at Japan Expo, for example, again, it's hard when you are not a good cosplayer and just enjoying your thing. Sometimes you heard people say, "Hey, look at the fat Katarina" or things like this. It can be hard and hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, that would definitely not be okay here. Anybody who did that would definitely be considered a bully and they would probably be asked to leave.
That's right. But maybe now in France it changed a little. As I said before, I left France 6 years ago, so things can change in 6 years. I hope it change for real. I have the luck that when I have a cosplay, if I think it's not perfect, I cannot wear it. So as I'm picky, I think or I never heard people telling anything about me. But sometimes I have friends with me and this friend the cosplay is not perfect or is missing something or the wig is not good. And then you heard people the entire day saying, hey, look at the wig, hey, look at the weapon and things like this. So I'm someone who is a little weak and I'm really happy it never happens to me because I'm sure I would cry.
Yeah, that's definitely not a nice experience for anyone. But I'm glad that you like the cosplay scene here in Canada, and hopefully, for the sake of the cosplayers in France, it will be a little bit nicer in the future.
So, cause that's weird, but the most of the time, it's not cosplayers that are saying that. It's always a random people just in civilian outfit and wandering. And they are the worst is like I think the League of Legends fan in France.
Oh,
But yeah, they are not cosplayer at all. It's only random people saying things. How can you like insult people if you are not trying to do the same?
yeah, you didn't put in the effort at all. You're just commentating on the side.
Yeah, that's the thing. So sometimes there is cosplayer too competing together, but I think it's not the most frequent situation.
Hmm. Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, shit, this has been a fantastic interview. I know I've definitely learned a lot from talking to you. So I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to be here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm really honored that you're asking me, and I hope my English is not as bad as I think.
I think your English is totally fine. I understood whatever you were saying.
Okay, so that's great. Thank you again.
You're definitely welcome. Fairy Tale Wiki loves your cosplays. We definitely hope that you'll keep tagging us whenever you do a new one, and we'll definitely keep sharing them with our fans because we want people to find your content and to enjoy it.
Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being behind us. And thank you as well, followers, for listening to us. We hope you enjoyed this interview. We will be back next week with the next episode of Fairy Tale Wiki Twitter Talk. But until then, we hope you all have a great day.